Well, this was quite a week spending with Tom Ferry and doing a mastermind with some top real estate professionals from the United States and here locally in the Baja California sewer. Um, I just got done driving Tom Ferry to the airport, my coach, and it was a opportunity where I could interview him and do a podcast. We talked about real estate, but what was interesting in this podcast, we talked about life, his interests, business, and it's a little bit different. It's in the car on the way to the airport, driving Tom, and take a listen. If you're a real estate professional, if you're a business owner, if you're just a subscriber to our channels, I think this is going to be very insightful. Talk about me personally and Tom also. Take a listen. You know, I appreciate you doing the event. I know this has been a hectic schedule. And talking to Ruby, it's like
Sure.
she's got a lot to juggle for you.
She does. And you know me, I wake up, I follow the schedule, whatever is next, do it with all your passion and then go to the next. So I appreciate it, man. It's always fun to come down here. It's so great to see Rocio last night too.
Yeah.
Like, with your son just getting back in town, it was cool that you took the time.
Yeah.
So,
No, she really enjoyed it. I mean, she's like, really, you want to do this event? And we started planning it before I went to Japan.
oh yeah.
And so we were in Japan and we were getting messages and questions and it was like, oh. But I have a greater appreciation of what you do.
Yeah, we do.
How many of these do you do? Any of?
So this is my 207th. I'm getting on my 208th flight for the year. So there's, call it 50, 60, maybe more, I don't know, ish, 70 days that are our events.
Mm-hmm.
2 days in Orlando for the elite,
Yep.
team events, legacy events, all the individual 1 days. And then I get hired by a bunch of companies. And I don't do that as often. So I kind of pick and choose, like, who do I want to support? Where do I want to go? Longtime clients and friends.
Yeah.
So, probably all in maybe 90 to 100 days.
A third of the year.
Yeah. So it is definitely a lot. But like we talked about yesterday, like, figure out what your zone of greatness is and do that. And, there's people that are probably a better professional speaker than I am, but like, it's where I'm happiest.
It
know
is
what I mean?
on stage in front of people.
Helping people,
Yeah.
like watching people create new synapses and get excited about their business, and then knowing that they can send that text, use that email, try that script, adjust their schedule, just, what's going on in their head. Like, that's the magic for me.
Mhm.
So,
It's
just cooler in Cabo.
Yeah, right.
And, I won't name a city.
Yeah.
Someone will
'Cause
watch
I'm
and be
a
like,
client.
hey.
Oh no, Central Illinois. I'm from Illinois, so I can say.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wait, so Central Illinois, so that's not like Cook County. So where?
No, so Central. That's where I went to school, the
Yeah.
University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. So
Hey, did you ever go to Normal, Illinois?
yeah, my first girlfriend was in Normal, Illinois.
Okay, now for the people that are, if you're the one person from Normal, I did a gig there, and the whole time I was thinking like Normal, Illinois, and I'm like looking around, and it's either like college kids or people that were in their 80s, and like nothing in between. And I remember, did you ever see the movie Young Frankenstein?
I haven't.
So written and produced by a genius, Gene Wilder, and then I tried to think of the guy that was sort of the co-producer of it, super famous. But there's a scene in the movie that has Normal in it where the guy says, "So we're building a Frankenstein monster. I need you, Igor, to go down to this where the morgue is. They've got a couple brains there,
Uh-huh.
and I need you to find Hans Zellman's brain. Hans Zellman is the greatest thinker of our time, and they've got his brain, and we're going to put it into the monster,
Uh-huh.
to reactivate the brain, and the monster is going to be a genius."
Right.
Marty Feldman's character, Igor, goes in, sneaks in, and there's like 3 brains, and it's like Hans Zellman over here, and he looks at it, and he accidentally, as he goes to grab it, knocks it over and destroys the brain.
Oh no.
So he turns to the next one, and it says abnormal. So he grabs that brain, brings it back, and he goes to the guy. He says, Mr. Frankenstein. He's like, I got the brain. So he puts the brain in, they bring the monster to life, and it's all super exciting in this fantastic comedy. And all of a sudden, the monster is just stupid and crazy and unable to do all the things that the guy's expecting Hans Zellman's brain to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, Igor, can I ask you a question? He's like, yes. He says, when you went down to the morgue to find that brain, did you see Hans Zellman's brain? He says, yeah, yes, doctor. He said, did you attempt to grab that brain? Yes, I did, doctor. And he said, and what happened when you grabbed that brain? He says, I knocked it over. And he said, so whose brain did we put in the monster? And he said, Abby someone. And he said,
Abby someone.
Abby someone. He said, Abby who? And he says, Abby normal. And like the character Team Scott's like, so you're telling me we put an abnormal brain in a 6'8", 310-pound gorilla?
Yeah.
And he's joking about. So the first time I'm in Normal, Illinois, I could not get that skit out of my mind.
First and only time in Normal?
First and only time in Normal. Are you a movie buff?
Okay,
throw
one at me. Throw one at me.
Fletch.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, do you mind if I borrow your towel? I just hit a water buffalo. Right? Like, put it on the Underhill step. I'll take a steak sandwich, a Bloody Mary and a steak sandwich. Like, so my wife and I fell in love going to B movies and C movies, and then you see all the big stuff pre-kids, and that's probably the reason why my boys are so into it too. And some could say yes, it's a nice escape. It certainly is, but I just love to laugh. So give me a little comedy and an occasional drama.
I noticed last night you guys were talking about at dinner the first concert.
Yes.
And I overheard Kiss was your first concert.
It was. So, but first, what was your first concert?
So I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
And so freshman in high school.
Yes.
And I worked an after-school job being the school janitor.
Yeah.
So my boss, the janitor, who became a very good friend, was a guitar player. And he was a big Richie Sambora fan.
Oh, yeah.
And Bon Jovi was in a breakup phase, and he went solo for a little bit, and he was touring.
Yeah.
So it was at the Riviera Theater in Chicago, and we watched Richie Sambora.
Wow.
First concert.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Memorable?
Yeah, very memorable.
Yeah.
Very memorable.
That's very cool. What was the most exciting concert you ever went to?
U2 in Prague.
Oh, yes. First of all, two like an iconic city,
right.
Iconic band.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for you?
Well, first tell me, was that your first time in Prague?
First and only.
First and only time.
Yeah. After I graduated from college in 97.
And you just serendipitously were in Prague and U2 was playing and you got tickets?
Yeah.
That's even.
Isn't it insane?
That's actually very cool. What year was that?
97.
Yeah.
So 20.
They were on fire, right? Like that whole 90s run, 2000s a little bit. Still great. Now you see him at the Sphere.
Yeah, right.
My dad went and saw
him
at
at the
Sphere. I didn't go. My
Neither
dad actually saw him twice, and he said he had met Bono through a friend, and little guy, and he said obviously very impressive what he's done, and he said then you see him, he said we're in this luxury box, and they're all like this big on the stage.
Right.
He goes, I kind of knew some of the songs, but I was just focusing on the visuals. It was really beautiful, and I'm like, yeah, Sphere. Yeah. So my first concert. Speaking of with my pops, 1979, it was, so I'm 9 years old. And so I was born into a family of music. My mom was a Mouseketeer. She was a singer. She was a dancer. One of the only classes I got an A in ever in like my 50 years of high school, it felt like, was musical appreciation. So, here I am, this like punk rock kid with like a mohawk or like dyed black hair.
Right.
Imagine me with black hair, like I'm really, really pretty. And sitting in the front row, it's musical appreciation. They turn on an album and I'm like, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Oklahoma. And they were like,
what?
How does the punk rock kid know any of this stuff? And I just said, my mom, loves music, and every day she would come home from work, she put on a record. And it was, it wasn't like my kind of records. But by the time I was probably
You knew it.
6 or 7, I had, the Beatles, I had the Beach Boys, I had Kiss. I think it was like Kiss Alive 1 or Kiss Alive 2. And then literally just begging my dad, please take us to Kiss. Right? My older
As
brother and
an
I-
8,
as a-
9-year-old.
As a 9-year-old. Like, Dad, oh my God, it's the Dynasty Tour. It was like their last album. I didn't know it was their last album. I found out later. But it's the last album before they took the makeup off. And it was extraordinary. My stepmom picked us up. We drove up to LAX, picked up LAX, my dad, and then drove to the Forum and watched Kiss perform. And I think it was one of the first times in my life that I thought, not I want to be a rock star, but like those guys are performers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they've got bits and skits and like Ace Frehley shoots the rockets out of his guitar, not just because we were there.
Right.
Every single time. Gene, blows the fire. It's a performance.
Yeah.
And I was just, obviously I knew all the songs, and even as a young kid, I loved it, but I was just blown away by the performance value. And I think I was kind of hooked on it ever since.
And all-time favorite bands for you?
Man.
Performers, musicians?
I'm going to probably say some bands that you probably wouldn't know, or maybe you would. So there's a band that was formed in the like kind of mid 70s called the Descendants, and they were an LA band. And if it wasn't for the Descendants, bands like 311, Green Day,
Right.
any modern pop punk would not exist.
Oh,
like
wow.
they created that genre. The drummer was a drummer-led band, and Milo, the lead singer, just had this magical connection. They kind of go in and out of bass players and guitar players, but it was really those two guys. And like you could still go to like a Coachella, and every now and then they're going to perform, and they're all the people that show up are my age and older, and we know every single song. Milo Goes to College, first record, got it when I was young. And then like I'm all over the board. If you look at my record collection, I've got every Pink Floyd album. I've got every Beatles album. My probably my most favorite artist ever would be David Bowie.
And why is that? What is it about David Bowie that, was there a certain moment as a kid listening to him?
So, again, you look at someone like, so the holy trifecta of music for me would be Lou Reed, David Bowie, and Iggy Pop. Punk rock wouldn't exist without any one of those guys. And a lot of the sort of alt music would not exist because of them. And you could look back and say like T-Rex certainly had an influence on Bowie as he was sort of transforming between one character and another. But like those guys really made it happen. Iggy Pop was the first punk rock star. Iggy and the Stooges, nobody knew what it was. They just were so different from everybody else. And he was, like putting peanut butter all over his body and stage diving and doing this stuff in 1968. People are like
revolutionary.
Everybody's like smoking weed and hanging out, waiting for the next band to come up, do Smoke on the Water, and he's like screaming a song called "I Want to Be Your Dog." So Bowie for me, if you like look at like Madonna, Madonna would not exist if it wasn't for David Bowie, and it's not because of a musical connection. It was because David Bowie is the one that showed everybody you could create something special, have a bunch of adoring fans, and not be like Chuck Berry playing the same song over and over again. Instead, switch to a new genre. Be ahead of the zeitgeist. Always be changing. Always be adapting. Always be exploring. And yeah, you might lose some fans because you go from Ziggy Stardust to the Thin White Duke, or Young Americans, which is a groundbreaking record. You make those transitions because it's what matters to you, and you're also paying attention to what's happening in the world. And Bowie was the first artist that I saw doing that, like evolving and changing and adjusting and testing and trying. And isn't that business?
Yeah, no, it is. And how old were you when you
I think I got,
or you bought his first album?
I want to say it must have been, I was probably 12 when I got Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. And like I could sing, you got to understand though, at the same time, I'm also listening to Bill Cosby, Steve Martin,
Comedians.
Robin Williams, so it's like I live in this like weird world of like, I want joy and laughter because of how it makes people feel, myself included.
Yeah.
And then again, I go back to my record collection, Pink Floyd, to punk rock, to, I probably have like 50 jazz records that, sometimes I'll just come home and I just want to like I don't know, Muddy Waters, whoever, right? Like I'm going to listen to blues. I listen to everything. I just,
So movies,
movies,
music, comedians,
comedians for sure. Comedians make you a better presenter.
100%.
They teach you.
I've been watching
Yes.
different comedians more, and
Yes.
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Something you mentioned yesterday to me was that you have several coaches,
Yes.
personally.
Yes.
And has that always been the case?
Coaches, mentors, advisors, always. And like I always have one main business coach, right? Like that's steady Eddie for me. And I've really, if you look over the course of my career, I've had like 3 in 31 years, right? And all of them are friends, super great for them. Just the current one that I told you, I hired this new gal because I'm looking for something. She's a very narrow niche coach. She does very specific work, and that's what I needed. I needed someone that had operated at that level and helped other people operate at that level. So that's Dr. Julie Gerner. I also work with a guy named Rory Vaden and his team. And Rory is an extraordinary brand expert, but not brand in the sense of like redo your logo and take a headshot.
Right.
Brand in terms of what was it in your DNA that you want to share with the world? And what I love is he says, Tom, the thing you're most qualified to share with others is something you solved in the past. And when I think about that and the work that I've done with them, the answer for me was like, it was easy. Like I'm the revenue guy.
Yeah.
Like my job is to like help people drive more revenue. Now I do 30, 40, 50 other things.
Right.
But if you were walking by me in an airport, and this is one of the assignments he gives you, you're walking by somebody in the airport and they say, hey, what do you do? I'm like, I drive revenue. Like, that's it. I drive revenue. Nick needs more sales. Okay, let's figure out how to drive more revenue. Now that could be marketing, that could be sales skills, that could be positioning, it could be brand, it could be knocking on doors, it could be doing email. Like, it doesn't make a difference, but like when I invest in companies, that's my sweet spot. Like, I'm going to help you drive revenue. Like, you don't put me in charge of P&L management, right? I can read a P&L. Of course, I understand it, but it's not my zone of greatness. My zone of greatness is sales, marketing, drive revenue, create influence, make the cash register ring. So that's Rory's kind of helping me package that.
And you've been with Rory for how long?
I've known Rory for probably, we used to compete against each other, for like 20 years ago. So I got
real estate coaching.
Well, so he had a sales training coaching company, but not in real estate.
Okay.
But those companies would come into real estate, and he would say all the time, he's like, yeah, I would go into an office, and we'd be going there to go do a presentation, aka a pitch.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you had already taken all the money out of the room. He's like, so I knew who you were, and then we became friends, and then I've hired him just in the last year and a half, and it's been a wonderful experience. And then my third coach is a guy named Terry Shodine, and Terry is an author. She is, I would argue, one of the single greatest presentation skill coaches you could ever work with. Her ability to help you articulate the right message, eliminate the irritating speech habits, no ums, ers, us. Okay, so all of that
fillers
kind of stuff,
and
but also the way that you craft your message. And then I just hired a fourth coach, and I can't give him a shout out yet because I don't know. I just hired him.
Okay.
And I can't give him an endorsement on a podcast. But I got to him because what I was looking for was a very specific niche problem that I wanted to solve. Mm-hmm. And like in all of my research, he's the guy. So I'm, between that and then 3 personal trainers, I got one that travels with me, one's in Dallas, one's in Orange County, so 7, Pam, my nutritionist, 8, Mary Bird, who's my IV drip doctor / sometimes therapist, 9. I need a lot of help, Nick.
It's interesting because I think a lot of the people, myself included, there's a misconception of when you help others, you don't need help yourself. Oh. Right? And it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
And it's comforting.
Let's get the word out on that one. That's not true.
Over the 30 plus years you professionally out there, how much do you think you personally invested in coaches, learning? not with the business, but that kind of like,
well, like
2-3 coaches at a time.
personal and professional
Yeah.
development. It's in my budget, like $250,000 a year.
Okay.
I need a lot of help.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that does not include like hiring a consultant.
Of course.
Hey, I need a consultant to help me with this, or a consultant. I mean, just like straight up, Tom, get better. Conferences, coaches,
Yeah.
you know, one day private exclusive events that I can get into that are, you know, $20,000 to go to, but you're in the room with the right people on the stuff that I want to learn. So it's just in my budget. I mean, you know, I run a nice business, and you know, we write it all off anyway.
Right.
But I don't know. I know, you know, you and I are friends. We know each other well enough to know, like, neither one of us want to take the slow path.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if there's like I was describing it like this: you take your kids to Disneyland,
Fast
and
pass.
you sit in line for an hour and a half, and then you're like, "What's that fast pass thing?" And then you discover there's get in line, there's the fast pass, and then there's the private experience.
Yes, sir.
Right. So
private.
in your life, you kind of go, I sit in line for 90 minutes. Okay, I sit in line for only 20 minutes. There are no lines.
Yep.
And, you know, this one is one experience cost, and this is another cost, and this is another cost. And I think as you evolve, certainly I've seen it in your career, we kind of go to I want the no line, direct access.
Yep.
You know, how do I make it happen fast? So yeah, that's it. That's my story.
You know, it was interesting. Yesterday in the mastermind, we were talking about, you know, the zone of greatness. You know, where is your zone of greatness? And I think most of the people, if not all of them, their zone of greatness is pretty much the same. I mean, they need to be interfacing with and driving business revenue, right?
Yep.
But I made an observation recently, personally, is that I've been doing that for a while, right? And you lose touch sometimes with the basic stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know for you if this has ever come up where you have to regress a little and feel like, so I gave this example. Last week, 2 weeks ago, Rocco, he plays soccer, and he was going to bed. He's like, my uniform is dirty and I have a game tomorrow. So it was just a small uniform. I hand washed it.
Yeah.
And that 20 minutes of hand washing a uniform was the best thing ever.
It's beautiful.
And I realized I don't do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good to do that. And everyone, you know, in my small group, we were saying, yeah, like walking the dog, like doing your own laundry, folding your laundry, that kind of. So what is that? What are those kind of things for Tom Ferry?
So as soon as you said it, first of all, it's beautiful that you did that for your son. And it is, it's sometimes in the mundane that we actually find some peace.
Yeah.
We give ourselves some grace.
Yeah.
We remind ourselves like how we got here.
Yeah.
Where we came from.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's always a humbling and beautiful experience. So my coach, Julie, I tell her about this like very uncomfortable, outside of the box, outrageous, scary, yet extremely exhilarating, very exciting goal that I have.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say it here because you and I both know the very best people work in secret.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all in the shadows. It's all in the dark. You don't disclose.
How many people know it? Kathy,
the two presidents of my company, my chief growth officer, co-founder, and my wife.
Yeah.
And my coach, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's it. And, you know.
So it's scary to you. Intimidating.
It's scary and intimidating to them. 3 different, let's just call it money partners also know.
Yeah.
And everybody's interested in doing the deal.
Yeah.
Which scares me even more. You know what I mean? Because I just feel like I probably have, look, we all have biases and we all have blind spots. And I'm no different, right? We can fall in love with an idea to the point that we rationalize it into existence.
Absolutely.
Completely miss the mark everywhere, and sometimes just in the smallest thing. And the smallest thing could be the difference that makes it sing and makes it suck.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, having sort of the validation of all this stuff, I still, it's got to be pressure tested. It's got to be and all that stuff. But my point back to your question was, when I was presenting this opportunity to Julie, my coach, she said, so Tom, that's a really audacious goal. I think it's very exciting. And I think you are the kind of person that could do it. You got the pause?
Yeah. That's like, what?
Could do it.
Couldn't do it.
And it wasn't a pride challenge. It's a very classic technique to Nick, I bet you couldn't drink this whole beer fast or do 20 push-ups. You could do it. And then she paused, and it was a long pause. And very, very bright woman. She said, this new goal, it's going to require a different version of you. And then she said, a more maniacal version.
More maniacal than you are.
Maniacal. And she said, like when you started the company 21 years ago, when it was feast or famine.
Yeah.
She said, you can't delegate your vision. You can't delegate being big. You can't delegate leading this. And you will not be able to delegate the hiring of the people, all of the initial first meetings, everything to get this thing off the ground can't be delegated.
Yeah.
And she knows that I have a lot of companies, and she knows that I'm a people attractor. I'm like, oh, Nick, you're awesome. Let's put some money in and let's go start this business. But what I'm really saying is I will be unlimited champagne of distribution. You go build it, and I'll bring all the clients, right? She's like, you're not going to be able to do that with this. So I am literally going back to my roots.
And how's that feel?
Exhilarating, terrifying. But remember the questions we were talking about, zone of greatness?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Right.
What needs to be eliminated? What needs to be added? What needs to be delegated? And the big one for me is what needs to be parked in the corner.
That's right.
Under the not right now section. She said, you've got to narrow your focus if you're going to make this thing happen. That's hard for guys like you.
Yeah. You want to do so much and yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So can you give me a timeline? What it looks like?
So I've stepped it out in multiple phases. If everything goes as planned, I would say conservatively by the middle of the second quarter, you'll see the first chess move.
Okay.
And no one will know what it is.
Yeah.
But they'll see it and they'll go, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then the second chess move.
Yeah.
And the third chess move. And I would hope that by the summit, the first major move has been completed. But I don't know if we'll announce it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, the very best people move in secret. They move in the dark. If everybody knows, then everybody knows. Now, of course, someone watching is going to say, well, what is it? Well, I'll launch 3 new companies between now and then.
Right.
And the person watching, oh,
that was it.
Oh, he started a new Hoobie-Doo company.
Yeah.
That wasn't it.
Yeah.
This one, everybody will know. And by the time everybody knows, no one will be able to do anything about it.
So I got a question. You're very open with, and you are interfacing with a lot of people, and being very open about your stories, your life. Is there a situation where you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that?
Of course.
And
of course.
Something that you could share with me?
No.
Well, you already shared it. You already said it.
I did, but I shared it and I knew I shouldn't have. And just for the record, if you've ever seen me speak before, the stories that I share about clients, I have permission to share. So it's never like disclosing a conversation with a client, la. It was actually disclosing something about a very good friend of mine and who his father was. And that part could be controversial for some. And I felt when I told the story, it was never in a undermining anything way, but I told it to this audience and I was like, and I called him and I said, I want you to know I told this story. And I said, I told it in the context of this situation. He was like, no, dude, I totally get it. He's like, I'm cool. But like, I was in my head about it. You know what I mean? Like maybe I crossed the line of our relationship and friendship, and I would never want to do that. And if I said the wrong thing before, if I cursed on stage when I probably shouldn't have, I did. Here's a funny one. I'm doing a seminar in upstate New York, and it's about 300 agents, and a company had hired me to do this event. It was like a 3-day sales training event. So I'm there and I'm doing my work and we're all role playing was the context of this is like probably 1995 or 6. And so all of a sudden a pretty woman walks in and I kind of look at kind of elegant gal and I look at her and I, kind of over the audience, I say, because the microphone and the speakers so she can hear me, I said, hey, do you need a seat? And she goes, no, I'm good. I kind of waved me off and I said, are you here for the Tom Ferry seminar? And she goes, yes. And I said, do you want to come participate? And she was like, no, I'm good. And I was like, okay, hold on, everybody. Hold on, stop. My dear, are you going to participate? Across 300 agents, 400 agents, right? Hey, are you going to participate? She says no. And I said, well, you're not being a very good example for everyone. Right? Guess who she was?
Who?
The owner of the company.
Oh.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I was horrified.
That's KYC, know your client.
Oh, my goodness. And don't be a dumbass. Again, I was young. I could say, well, I was 26, 27.
Right.
No, my dad taught me a long time ago, you got to be careful in life. You never know who you're talking to. They can be bigger, better, smarter, faster, and could probably beat the hell out of you. And you have no idea. So, give yourself some grace, be polite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just never know. It's not like I walk around like, a former CIA agent with my back against the wall and you know what I mean? Like, I'm not that, but I do try and be very conscious of people, the situation, what's going on. And that was an important moment for me because I never made that mistake again.
Very humbling.
For sure. And by the way, no shocker, she never hired me again.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed. Yeah. How about you? You got a rookie blunder?
I'm sure I do. Well, the reason why I asked that, what happens not frequently, but from time to time, I'll be amongst my team.
Yes.
And I'll say things like at the Christmas party or whatnot, and Rocio's like, why did you say that? Like, I shouldn't have told, like, it was maybe a conversation that she and I had, and it was maybe something we were thinking about, like a new adventure in the company, a new direction. And so I tend to get very excited about things, and I just like to share. And that can be dangerous.
So I have my hallucination as to why that's dangerous. Why do you know that to be true?
Well, what I've learned it to be dangerous, because if it were just me, it would be, no, like I'm not hiding anything. I'm just going to say, but when you have a company and fairly good size, everyone has different perspectives on things. So when you share information, it has to go through, now I realize, more filters. Like, how is this going to be perceived? Who is the audience? It's not just sales agents, it's managers, it's property management, it's all these different departments. There's also the language and cultural difference of how I'm communicating things.
Yes.
So that's what I realized it being potentially dangerous.
Can I give you another insight? I mean, you're spot on. So the average human being is 6 moves from death and dying in every decision that they make. So in this case, it's not even a decision. It's just a piece of information, right? And the same thing applies. So imagine I'm sitting in that room and Nick says, we're expanding to La Paz.
Right.
And I'm excited about it. The people in, Cabo, literally, this is what they do. They go, he's going to La Paz. He's not going to be in Cabo.
Right.
If he's not in Cabo, I'm not going to get a lot of leads. If I don't get a lot of leads, I'm not going to make any sales. If I don't make any sales, I'm not going to make any money. If I don't make any money, I'm not going to be able to eat and I'm going to die.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
So you're like, hey, like when I told my company, I'm like, I'm leasing space in Dallas.
Yeah.
200 of my employees in Orange County.
You have to move.
Look at, he's leaving us.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to find another job. I'm not going to make any money. I'm not going to be able to afford food. I'm going to die. I'm like, no, I just leased space in Dallas.
It's okay.
Right? Like, it's just another office.
Right.
Like, like, you're not going to be here. It's just, it's all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if one of my teammates is watching, it is exactly what they all said to me. I'm like, why are you guys so up in arms about Dallas?
Right.
They're like, well, it just means you're going to shut down the company. I'm like, do you know this lease space that we're in? Do you know it has 4 more years on it? And they're like, well, but you said you were going to get the 8th floor. I'm like, yeah, we have the 7th and the 9th. The 8th floor is now in Dallas.
Right.
And I'm going to hire some people there instead of hiring people here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and by the way, we're in the middle of a pandemic. What do you guys care? You don't ever go to the office anyway.
Right.
But you can't actually say those things. You have to say, tell me more about that.
Right.
What are you thinking? Well, we think you're going to leave and you're not going to come back, and then you're going to close the office, and then we're all have to get a job, and we love you and we love this business, and now you're going to leave us.
Yeah.
And we're like, and I'm going to die.
Yeah.
That unfortunately is just the way the mind functions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, Ricio's like so insightful, and I know your intentions, like my intentions, were good.
Yeah.
But also it's context. Christmas party versus formal meeting.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
They're drinking and,
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, let me tell you what we're doing. And they're like, huh? Right.
Like, Rosita's like, you don't speak. Just say Merry Christmas.
Is this why I don't get invited to the company functions anymore also? Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yep. So it's almost Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you have to be thankful for?
Oh, it is such a long list. I'm going to start first with my wife and her health.
Yeah.
I'm going to say my 2 sons and just how proud I am of them. My 97-year-old mother-in-law, Lola, who lives with me. My dad and his wife, and all of my siblings, my mom, her husband, and it's like family. My stepmom Pua, my stepsister Reagan and her daughter, and Colin, her husband. Like, it's all this just like expression of like so much appreciation for all of those people. And then I go right to all my coaches, all my teammates, Ruby, right? All these people, all my coaches, all these people that support, my craziness.
Yeah.
And then all my clients, right? That, deal with my insanity and, support me as I support them. It's just, I have so much to be grateful for. I think that's one of those things you and I learned a long time ago. Like, it's very easy to bitch, moan, whine, and complain about the smallest things. And then I sit there and say, wait a minute, I just did like a 40-minute Q&A staring at the ocean behind me in Cabo with my guy, Nick.
Okay.
We had a beautiful dinner last night. Like, if I complain, somebody should punch me. How about you?
This year I'm very thankful for Rocio, much like you with Kathy. This year has been a challenging year for the business. Yeah. I think with also 2 teenage kids.
Oh,
it's been
that's easy.
A learning, a lot more
no
challenges.
Yes.
But I'm really thankful for the simple things.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning it earlier, like being able to wash the dishes.
Yeah. Wash
my son's soccer uniform.
Yeah.
Right? Those kind of things. And
Nick, football.
Yeah. Football. Yeah. Proper football.
Proper football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really, we celebrate Thanksgiving here, even though it's Mexico.
Yeah. Because
of I'm being American and with the American influence down here.
Yeah. Bringing the vibe.
Yeah.
You also celebrate is it September 20th? The Mexican, like the revolution.
September 16th.
16th.
Yeah. And then November 20th. So just a couple days ago, this week was the Revolution Day.
Yes.
So there's those 2 holidays. And did you know Cinco de Mayo is not Independence Day?
I knew that.
Yeah.
I thought that was just tequila and taco days.
That's pretty much
right?
it.
It's just, it feels a very U.S. takeover.
Yeah.
So what is the origin?
The Battle of Puebla, right? And
hold on. Let's see. Let's go right to perplexity and ask this question. I'm very curious now. So let's see.
This AI
Battle of Puebla fought on May 5th, 1862.
Okay.
Holds significant cultural and historical value for Mexico. It marked a surprising victory for the Mexican forces, led by General Ignacio Zaragoza, over the larger and better equipped French army under Napoleon. The victory was more symbolic than strategic, as it temporarily halted French advances and boosted the Mexican morale. The battle is commemorated annually on Cinco de Mayo, celebrating Mexican unity and resistance against foreign intervention.
And ladies and gentlemen, Tom Ferry is not only a real estate coach, he's a historian. Mexican.
Or he's a guy who could go on Perplexity. Yes. Yeah.
That's good. Well,
all
now
about,
we
but
know.
that's cool. Yeah. So now, yeah. All right. So that's interesting. So Ignacio fights Napoleon and loses, and Napoleon did not lose many battles.
Yeah. No.
Was there only one Napoleon? I mean, Napoleon Bonaparte, obviously. So was that Napoleon Bonaparte? Like the Napoleon?
I think it is. So
That was
during the U.S. Civil War,
Yes.
1862.
Yep, he's born 1771. No, wait, hold on here. So Prince. Actually, I do not think it was.
It's a different Napoleon.
Yeah. The Emperor of France from 1804 to 1815. Napoleon is renowned for the military campaigns across Europe, which expanded French influence significantly. He implemented the Napoleonic Code, influencing legal systems worldwide. Despite his success, died in 1821.
Oh,
So it's Napoleon III.
interesting.
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of like Caesar.
Yeah.
You know,
Mini.
which one? Which one? There was
Or
many.
Alexander.
Yeah, exactly. Alexander. But you want to talk about a fascinating character to study. Alexander the Great, man, being in like Istanbul
Mm-hmm.
and watching sort of the tale of like two worlds, when it was Alexandria or it was Constantinople, and then you've got the Moors come in and invade, and all of a sudden you've got all these beautiful mosques everywhere.
Have you been?
Oh, multiple times.
Yeah.
Done
You've
seminars
watched-
there.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
What's the real estate environment?
Well, so think about like you're on the Bosphorus River,
Right.
right? And so it's kind of the, it's at the very end. So it'd be the opening essentially to that whole world. China, Asia on your right,
Yeah.
right? Europe on your left. But when you go all the way up to the very top, guess what's there? Ukraine.
Yeah.
So the Ukrainians and the Russians during the, current conflict, many of them left, and where did they buy? All of the
Down
beach
there.
properties. So my guy, Murat, big shout out to Murat if you're watching this, Remax of Turkey, they've had some of the most extraordinary years, which is tragic because you're talking about tragedy
Sure.
at the same time, but so often in life, tragedy and triumph are hand in hand. And so the real estate market's very good. He is an excellent operator, very savvy technologist, investor, and has built just a beautiful company. So been there a couple times, stay at a beautiful hotel right in the Bosphorus,
Nice.
usually there with my buddy Michael, who is who he and his family own Remax of Europe, the sort of master franchise, and took my boys there on my last trip for the first time. And my older son, Michael, when he was in 10th grade, he went to this really cool entrepreneurial university associated with MIT. And it was like a summer thing for like 2 months. And he met this kid, Ege, there. And Ege lives right basically in the heart of Istanbul on the new side, not the old side.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, Michael, you want to go to Istanbul? Like Ege and him been like, pen pals, which would be like Snapchat, modern day times. They've been pals forever. So he was like, oh my God, yes. And then I was like, Steven, you want to go? Michael's going to go. We're going to see Ege. And he was like, yeah. And we ended up doing Portugal, Lisbon, and then Cascais.
Yeah.
And then went to Istanbul and had just an absolute blast. From a historical standpoint, Rome's got nothing on it.
Yeah, it's
And
incredible,
it's
right?
not- have you been?
We went last year.
Oh,
So
no.
for a
No.
week, it was incredible.
Where did you, so you hit both sides.
Yeah, we
It's not the old city.
Yeah, it was
Did
it was different. For us, it was my first time where you see so many women covered
Yes.
up.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
ignorant American
Yeah.
is just like there's a certain trigger or it triggers something in your mind like
Sure.
like be aware.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
but it was really cool. Rocio really liked the prayer.
Yes.
Like 5 times a day and like
Yeah. Yeah.
so it was I would definitely go back.
Yeah. I mean, that's you got this beautiful religion, and then you got this tiny percentage of that beautiful religion that are just like every other religion, that shit crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, it's like, you see one guy dressed a certain way and you're like, therefore all.
Yeah.
Right? It's just remember, hey, look at that guy. He could kill me. Back to the 6 moves to death and dying. It's like, it's very similar. Yeah, well, I'm glad you had that experience because the people, the culture, the food is just.
Yeah, no, the Turkish breakfast.
The Turkish coffee.
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, for all my Cuban friends, you got nothing on Turkish coffee. I think it's cocaine. I was like
mud water.
Yeah, and then you finish and you got to read.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what does it mean? Like, today's gonna be a good day because I'm now flying. Right.
Tom, we're here.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate it. 24 hours.
Yes.
In and out.
Yes.
Actually, it's less than 24. No, it's you. I think you arrived at 10 o'clock yesterday.
I did. So it's exactly 24 hours in Cabo.
All right. I look forward to the next one.
Man. All right. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nick Fong Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Ronival Real Estate and follow Nick on Instagram at NickFong_Ronival. Ready to find your Baja dream home? Check out the latest property listings at Ronival.com or findmexicohouses.com. Hasta luego.